meeting. 6:30, 6:36. I don't think anyone else is coming. Lorraine was going to come, but 10 minutes ago she texted me to say, oh, you're good?
Yeah.
To say she couldn't make it. Look at this, huh? Surveys so far we've already received.
That's awesome.
So we'll talk about that in a minute. So the first item is to approve the meeting minutes for November 12th and December 3rd.
You want to do them individually?
Sure. I'll entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 12th, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Rob. Does anybody have any comments about that draft? No. I did get this email from Sarah.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand where she was going with it. She had some comments relative to the meetings and meeting minutes, and I'm assuming that because she sent this, she wasn't going to be here tonight. But she didn't say that, so I don't even know why I'm assuming that.
I got the impression that maybe she was, but she just didn't want to have to spend a lot of time talking about it.
That's the way I thought of it.
I thought she was going to be here too.
Okay.
I almost got the impression it was admission that she was talking a lot, and even during the meetings, and she thought they may have misunderstood some of what she was saying.
All right. Well, she isn't here, and I'm not going to sit here and read this email to figure out exactly where she was going with it. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the minutes as written signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? They passed unanimously. I'll entertain a motion for the December 3rd minutes.
So
Second? Anyone? Second by Lori. That'll be her first second. Any suggestions on that draft? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstained because I wasn't here.
Okay. Did you get that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, number 2 is the perpetual discuss the SERPED guide on economic development corporation sections 3 and 4. I think I mentioned at the last meeting, this is something I just want to leave on here for the sake of having an ongoing discussion. I guess it really could technically be called old business. And like I've said, that's kind of the homework for everybody to review those sections. They're in the Dropbox. Or if you don't have access to the Dropbox, let me know and I'll make sure that you get a copy of it. And that's the document that defines a couple different types of entities that, Sarah, you can sit right here if you want.
Oh boy, thank you. Sorry I'm late. I have a train really late tonight.
You're gonna have to watch this organizational nightmare that is the John Powderly Selectman's
I
spot.
was just going to say, don't touch John's stuff. Is that what you?
Right. You can use his red pen though, if you want.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
And you can try to figure out exactly what this means that's been stapled several times to the...
Hey, that's the man of the year.
cryptic.
That's right.
Right.
It is.
I'm sorry
Pick on
to interrupt. I have to meet a train at 6:10 and sometimes it runs late. So I run late.
No, that's
so I
okay.
apologize.
That's fine. Happy you made it. So that's the nature of this number 2. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at that stuff. And again, I leave it here just for the sake of if somebody has and they want to have a conversation about it, we can discuss it. But if not, we can just move on if nobody wants to discuss it at this time. It may be premature considering this stuff. But again, it's just on there as a placeholder so that when we're ready to talk about it, we can.
think we'll probably keep it under old business, and let's take a look at what the consensus of the respondents are.
Okay,
Survey to figure out.
yep,
Yeah, because I looked at it, and I looked through section 3, I didn't have time to go through section 4, but it seemed like we really need to identify those things as far as what the results are of the survey, and then I think we would even have to figure out what our goals are based on the surveys and what our consensus is
right, right.
before we can pick, because they're all
Those are
relative.
great
They're all
ideas though.
relative to
Yeah.
Those are, exactly, those are tools that are available to towns when they have a well-defined action plan
Right.
as to where they want to go. So that's really, was the point of that, is just to familiarize everybody with those things out there so that when we do dig into this stuff, if there's an obvious need that's been highlighted by people in town, they could be tools to help us get there. So.
Is the goal to pick one? To pick one of those
No,
structures
no,
that's on the matrix?
no, I think perhaps.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, we just
Depending
have to
on
have
what's
that conversation.
identified,
Yep.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
I read through the documents and I understand why you would put this on the back burner until the survey results come in, to base what we're doing on what the people say that they want. However, I did notice in the documents that other towns call their economic development committee by different names. And I wonder if maybe the people of Lakeville are reacting to the name and the image that we're putting out there. And do we really need to wait for all the results to come in to look at what we're hearing from the people is that they're very interested in community, whether it's through developing business so that the community can thrive or other aspects. And I don't want to go too far into this because a lot of work has been done by a lot of different people that I don't want to necessarily tangle into this at this point in time. However, I did look at the documents and I saw a name, community development, and I thought, well, that really leaves us wide open. My question is, why are we called economic development when it seems to invoke such a question of, well, what do we really need to grow, and is it business or is it taxes? Are we not simply a community development?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, I think that's a great way of selling this, for lack of it's a pretty crass way of referring to it, but it really is a more rounded, softer approach to it, which I think is great. The reason why we're called the Economic Development Committee is because the people that created it called it that. It's that simple. It was nobody at this table that had any say in the naming of it.
I want to offer that we might be able to do greater economic development as a community development committee than as an economic development committee, because with one faction of business comes a set of ethics and conduct and principles that might conflict with another faction of business. And if you can somehow have a greater
Right, no, I totally get the
encompassing
point.
name,
Yes.
then we can have different factions that are purely business or some other avenue that don't necessarily have to engage in conflict with each other.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm really pushing for, before we lock in, that's why I'm not putting this on the back burner right now. I'm saying, should we, before we lock into a name and a mission, entertain the idea that maybe we're limiting ourselves by not having a broader name?
Right. No, I think that's a great point, and I'll definitely. I think it's worthy of a conversation. You know, sooner than later. Not tonight, but I think it's a great thing to have.
Get it on the record.
Yes, I think it's a great suggestion. All right, so.
Aaron, but just to your point, like you said, I mean, the reason we are called the Economic Development Committee is because it's the charge of the Board of Selectmen who put this into place.
Right.
And the charge at this point is, I mean, I'm not gonna read the whole thing again, but it's you know, it's basically geared towards expanding and developing, you know, the commercial tax base
Right.
in town.
And I wouldn't have had this idea had I not read through those documents, but it says community development's charge is
Well, that's why if
also
we read through the
economic
documents,
development,
and I haven't read
right?
through all of the surveys yet, I haven't read through any of them actually, but if that's the tone that the community's taking, then you can bring it back to the selectmen.
It's yes
and tell
and
them
yes.
to-
Yes, it is economic development. It is, even though it's not got it in the name, it's still economic development. I guess we're
Tweak
not
it to
saying no.
trick them into thinking we're
We're
not
not saying
strictly
no.
about economic
We're,
development.
we're expanding our horizon. We're opening ourselves up to more targets that way.
Right.
Purely commercial has, and I love commercial, I run my own business, so I'm not strictly commercial, but I think, you know, we could look at what does community development mean as a form of economic development, if that makes sense.
I think that would greatly change the focus of the committee. When you
Yeah, I mean,
brought
They
it
might-
No, no,
Really-
but what I like about the suggestion though is that we can, to John's point, we have a specific charge. But if this information leads us to a roadblock because our horizons are not as broad as you're suggesting they could be, perhaps we want to take a look at that. And I think that that's a valid point at this stage of the game where we're figuring out what our role is going to be based
Right,
on
that's
this
why we need
information.
to look at this information first.
Right, right. Yeah, this is,
I think community as a community development. I mean, I know on camera too. Nothing against the Boy Scouts, but are we trying to, you know, bake bread and have fundraisers, or are we trying to raise money for the town?
no, it wouldn't even be any of that. It would be, I think it's in the master plan.
It's in the book, it's in the
You-
chapter 3.
Well,
I read that.
no,
There's
no,
a
no,
bunch of
but
different names in there. I
a
read
great
that.
example of a project that a community development committee might do is the plan that folks develop for the center of town, which is defined as 105 and 18. You know, where the old library is, the old town hall. And I don't know, I think it's in the master plan, the diagram and you know, the drawings of that plan. And that to me is something that a community development committee would do, where it takes into account perhaps some changes in zoning for having certain types of mixed use, you know, residential, maybe with some, you know, retail or whatever. But it's also got kind of a town planning element to it, where it's going to kind of reshape the lay of that piece of property. So it's not just economic, although that's part of it, but it also takes into account other aspects of community planning.
It just
It could-
widens it.
right.
Right.
widen it.
And couldn't it then fold in agricultural planning and even just like the lacrosse fields up the street, like identify where we want to do things like that.
Well, I think we're safe to go a little further with this, right? We have interests in other types of development. We can look at the Ted Williams camp, which has now a venue to pull in more business through their conference hall. Events like the Lakeville Arts Council Festival brings in business. There are a lot of things we can do to create activities here that will generate jobs and revenue for the town. It doesn't have to be a storefront, it can actually be a project.
Right.
It creates jobs, income, revenue for the town, brings more people into the town. I'm very interested in what's happening at the Ted Williams camp. The woman that organizes is an event producer. I have a similar background. I'm trying to do this in the parks. We have people that are working with agricultural interests that could be another leg, like Jessica's suggesting, agricultural, ecotourism. Mitzi's commented on that before. Just making Lakeville more business friendly is community development. When we're hosting seminars at the Lakeville Library, we are doing community development because we are creating a community that supports business. So I do agree that we have a charge for economic development. I'm just saying that we can use more than just a hammer. We can also use a screwdriver and a roll of tape and many other tools to create economic development, and that maybe we should, in addition to polling the community and finding out what the community wants, which is predominantly always, I want more community, it seems. So I feel like this isn't going too far out in left field when what comes back all the time is more community, to focus on what we can do to create more business that also creates more community. But also look at, while we're looking at what the people want, also look at what the tools are that maybe we could use. Economic development was once called community development. I find that very interesting. So what was economic development when it was called community development? What did that look like?
Right.
Maybe there's something in there for us, since that's what everybody's asking.
No, I think it's a great angle. I think it's a great idea to have that conversation in a meeting or two when we have more information, and hopefully, and like I said, I'll add it to an agenda, and hopefully we'll have a bigger group dig into that and figure all that out. Item number 3 is to discuss the Regional Economic Strategy Committee.
Which was canceled
Yeah.
because of the weather. So I have nothing to report.
Okay. Good report. We want to schedule the next meeting. What's this? First Tuesday of February is the 4th at 6:30. That tend to work for people.
I know I won't be here because I'm going to be away.
Okay.
When's school vacation? 15th?
It's a couple
I think it's
weeks
like the
after that.
17th, 18th.
Yeah, that's why I'm going away prior to.
All right. So that's when we'll meet then. Now the deadline for the survey is the 1st. So. Saturday. So hopefully we'll have some information. Hopefully we'll have enough time to get some information for that. Because I'd like to discuss the results. And even if we don't have all of them in, you know, we'll have.
Could they be scanned and emailed?
Well, what I want to do is I'm going to have these input. I might even just do it into the website, so everything's just online. Because then it's all in one place, and we can.
You mean the Dropbox?
No,
the Survey Monkey.
The Survey
Oh,
Monkey.
Oh, okay, the handwritten.
I know,
Right.
isn't it? I can't wait to
Have
Um,
many responded via Survey Monkey?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know, because that's Mitzi's thing, and she's
Okay.
not around. But and I was shocked to see this. I mean, I just came in.
That's a lot.
When Rita called me, she said, "Oh, we got some surveys back.
Thought there'd be 10 or 15.
We'll throw them on your desk." So yeah, there's probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 of them here. I would say.
My husband
Maybe
will be
even
sending
more.
one in. So you will still pull this out. You have to.
There's a lot of writing on it.
Handwritten. I mean, not handwritten.
Wow.
We got an essay from someone.
Wow.
Wonder who that
This person feels extreme. This person has a lot to add.
That's great.
I
though, that they
love
were-
it.
No, it
I
is
think
great.
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
The more info,
So-
the better.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think, obviously I'm not going to go through and read them now. But I think that, generally speaking, this is good. Obviously that we're getting some responses here. And that's my plan, is to get as much of this in one place so that we'll have a report at the next meeting so we can dig in and have a conversation about what all this stuff means. That'll be on the 4th.
I think that's indicative that people are interested. One way or the other, they're interested.
And I would hope that for every one we get back, there's one
Online.
that's online. or 10 that's online.
Yeah,
That's
I was
probably
gonna
not
say
realistic,
more, or
but
more.
There are more pages there than I think people have met in Lakeville, period. Means you got a lot of people that don't get out in town responding. It's great.
So, all right, so that is kayak ramp should be installed on Assawamsett. Can't vote on there though. Okay, so old business is number 5. Anybody have anything they want to revisit?
Do we know if we
Okay.
sent the letter to planning board? That
We did.
those parcels?
Yep, I did that. I don't remember when. I know I did it though because I signed it. Rita drafted something and I sent it off a week or 2 ago. So there's a record of that being out there. We haven't obviously heard anything back from them. I don't really know what the protocol is for interboard communication.
Well, we'll just follow up with them if we haven't heard back from by the next meeting.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to stay on top of them just to see where that's at. Does anybody have any new business to introduce or consideration for the next agenda or anything that they want to talk about?
At some point, I guess we'll have to start having discussions if we do wanna have that, panel or, the workshop or the seminar or the panel or whatever, but I guess we could probably discuss that more after we've had an opportunity to go through the surveys, because the content of the seminar may also be, dependent on what's within,
Well, the survey's gonna provide us with the appetite of the
right,
residents are
right.
for any type of development. So it'll give us our direction, hopefully.
Are you aware of the new signs going up on 105?
We can't get one
There's
of
one
those.
on
County
County
Street
Street
that
that
just
just went up on too.
They look nice.
Yeah.
They look
I haven't
really
seen, what
nice.
are they?
Their
One just says like-
businesses are putting their signs out on the road.
You talking about the highway signs?
I'm talking about the signs on 105 that would be where there would be a sidewalk that advertised the business.
Oh, no, no, no.
Oh,
I'm
I
talking about highway
Oh, I
signs.
saw
They're
that. It's like
starting to
a construction one.
Mhm.
General contractors.
Very nicely done,
Yeah.
but they just all blend right in.
Yeah.
And they look great. I wondered if there was a increase of them for any particular reason. And I noticed the for lease signs and things on the businesses, like the A-frame. I know they look great.
Yeah.
There's a noticeable difference I've noticed in the last couple of months.
All right, I guess that's it. I'll
Maybe our shortest meeting ever.
entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion has been made, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned.